Thanks to everybody for coming. We're starting on time. We have a live stream audience, so welcome to people who are joining us online. My name is Amy Garowitz. I'm the Director of Alumni Engagement at the New School, and one of my favorite jobs in this position is working on Parsons Reunion. So for those of students who don't know that this is Parsons Reunion, this is what you have to look forward to as soon as you graduate. It's a great day. We have hundreds and hundreds of alumni who have said that they want to come back and re-engage with us, and we're very excited. We're also very excited to have alumni who have agreed to introduce and speak on a panel about entrepreneurship. We have some amazingly talented alumni, which I know you all know, and we are absolutely delighted that some of them are here to talk about what it takes to be a success as an entrepreneur. Making some introductory remarks, we are very, very fortunate and grateful to have University trustee Kay Unger here. She's not only a university trustee, she's also a member of the Parsons Board of Governors. She's been a fashion designer since 1968 when she left Parsons. She began her career as an apprentice to Jeffrey Bean and went on to found the Gillian Group prior to founding Kay Unger New York and Phoebe Couture. Kay is an honored member of the fashion community and has an equal passion for philanthropy. She's actually a very generous supporter of Parsons. Her current and past accomplishments include serving as president of FGI and CFDA. She was a founding member of the Committee of 200, a group of top women entrepreneurs, and she serves as a member of the Women's Forum, and as I mentioned, as a member of the Parsons Board of Governors, as well as a trustee of the New School. She is the recipient of the Spirit of Life Award from City of Hope Cancer Hospital and raised the first $250,000 for Evelyn Lauder Breast Cancer Research Fund. Today, Kay focuses primarily on her philanthropy. She is the president of the Stephen Julius Foundation, Inc. This is a fund committed largely to cancer research and care, and it is also a fund that helps with scholarships for talented and motivated students from diverse backgrounds to study at Parsons, the New School for Design. So please join me in welcoming Kay Unger.
Thank you. I can't believe that was all me. Must have happened a long time ago. Anyway, I welcome alumni, students, friends, faculty. I think, this panel is about mind your own business. Sounds kind of funny, but it's also about your business. And to be an entrepreneur, the last thing you do is mind your own business. You always look at other people and other things and opportunities. I think that building and maintaining an entrepreneurial career is really a challenge, but a fabulous one. Now, first of all, I have some questions for all of you. I want to know, how many of you are alumni? Will you raise your hands? Wow. Okay. How many of you are students? Fair share. How many of you are entrepreneurs already? Oh, wow. I think I probably need you more than you need me. And has anybody or anyone in this audience, did you graduate before me? I didn't think so. So I stand here as the oldest alumni, as I said. I graduated in 1968. I went to college first. I'm 67 years old. And in July of this year, actually, the only thing about that at 67, you'll see, I broke my foot trying to exercise. Bad idea. So I have all these notes. I probably won't read them because now that I see all of you, so many of you are entrepreneurs. I looked up all about entrepreneurship and what it means, but I'm going to leave that on the side. I brought copies of some good definitions, but I think it sounds like all of you are already out there. And maybe I'll tell you a little bit about how I started. And one of the things we talk about when we have these board meetings at Parsons is not only how to succeed, but how to accept failure and being open about it. Now, I've had a lot of success. I founded and started 3 different design companies. The last one, Kay Unger, New York, was 17 years old, and I sold my share back to my partners and to the wonderful team of designers that I trained as of July 1st. So my name carries on, but I so wanted to do other things. So I myself have reinvented myself now. This will be my probably third time. And it's a little scary, but it's so exciting. And I think that's one of the things I want to share with you is reinvention, rewiring, whatever you want to call it. It has no age. We can do it anytime. And at 67, who knows? I could have another business for 20 years. And even though philanthropy is my passion, and it's interesting, this morning I flew back from Chicago because there I was at the Committee of 200, which is now 500 entrepreneurial women. I was at a conference, and it was our 30th anniversary. And I was lucky enough to be one of the founding members. So 30 years ago. It was pretty exciting, and I learned a lot about it. So here I am embarking on a new career, and I won an award. And it was called Philanthropy is Fashion Award. And that, to me, is a whole new career for so many of us. Even like Tom's shoes, fashion, philanthropy is fashion. It could be so fabulous if that became sort of our motto, our tagline for so many things. So Joel Towers said to me, Kay, just tell them one of your stories. Okay, so how I really started. I worked for Jeffrey Bean. And the one thing I learned while working for Jeffrey Bean, first of all, I was the only woman assistant he ever had. And I was in a room with him with Michael Volbrock, who is a fellow alumni of Parsons School of Design, and Issei Miyake. And it was phenomenal. And Issei at the time had just come from working for Pierre Cardin. Anyway, that was the stage when Jeffrey Bean did little gray flannel dresses and little white collars and so on. And I myself was lucky enough to grow up around very beautiful couture clothing that my mother wore when I grew up in Chicago. So anyway, I'm looking at these dresses and I keep thinking, I don't know why, but wouldn't it be nice if so many more women could wear these? I bet I could figure out a way to make them less expensive. So that's when I picked sort of the goal of my career. And I think I can say to this audience, my motto was, I want to cover the asses of the masses. So now, 45 years later, I believe I did a good job. And I think the way I did it was I really respected my customer. I went and traveled 30 weekends a year for 45 years to go in the dressing rooms and see who they really were, see what their problems were. I grew older with them, and then I dressed their daughters. I knew what they needed, and quite honestly, it's just you got to know what made them feel better, what they needed in the way of fit. When that extra tummy arrived after about 50, what were you going to do with it? Where were you going to push it? Down, up, or cover it? And breast cancer survivors. And I learned how to dress them before there was reconstruction and all those things. But going back to the Jeffrey Bean days, when I left there, I was working for Trina Norell. And actually, Norell was my critic when I was here. And it was a great career. I was on the cover of magazines and so on and so forth. But then my father passed away very young, and he left me what I considered, and still is, a lot of money, $25,000. And Liberty of London, I'm sure most of you know what that is, these beautiful cotton prints. The people who owned Liberty of London came to me and said, hey, we would love you to design and use our fabric because right now only people are making models coats, like these are coats that people wore to zip up, walk around the house, and they weren't very pretty. And only Cacharel is doing something interesting in Europe. Don't ask me how I got this idea. I went to their showroom, I took a check, and I wrote them a check for $25,000. And I picked all these prints and had them shipped to my living room. Now, I knew nothing about business. People who have worked for me through all these years, I would teach them how to do cost sheets, how to lay out yardage, how a business is run. But at Jeffrey Bean, that wasn't part of that era. You just made beautiful clothes. You'd spend an entire day trying buttons on the dress and so on and so forth. So when I bought all this fabric, I obviously at 67, I can't remember exactly what I was thinking then. But I just responded to beauty and print and color, and I started in painting. So at night, because I had kept in touch with people I had worked with along the way, and I was only like about 2 years out of school, I found a factory that would make my samples and my stock, and I kept a day job. And the interesting thing is why this panel is so important and why the course that Matt teaches is you really need, as a creative person, so many of us don't have both left and right sides of the brain. Now, there's many people out there that do, and the coordination and finding the right person to help you or to be your partner or to hire and knowing what to do. I knew none of that. I really didn't have a lawyer. I had an accountant, but I didn't know that you could take a certain amount of money to the bank and they might match it and support you, or factoring. I held up the dresses and I said, this is cute. I think it should retail for about $90. I didn't lay it out. I didn't count how many yards were in the fabric, et cetera, et cetera. But I somehow got started. And the one thing I seem to know is when I found a showroom on Madison Avenue, and they would, sell it to stores, but mainly I worked with Bloomingdale's. Why? Because I could wrap the package, get on my bike, and deliver the box and say, if you want this dress, you have to pay me on delivery. And in those days, that's how I survived. And it was really, really lucky, because now I don't think you could do that, and you have to get on a matrix, and things are different. But it was just that kind of story that is so true. And I can tell you so much of what I didn't know, and so many things I still don't know, and why I'm going to need this panel after this and many of you to do my new ventures. But that was just one example. And then I proceeded to, at the end of a year of doing that, two fellows that I had worked with before who were phenomenal salesmen say, we want to join you in your business. And I said, you're making $100,000 a year. Why would you want to join me? They said, we will be salesmen the rest of our life if we don't do something, and you've already done something. We want to help you. So they joined me, and we started what was called the Gillian Group, which grew to a $125 million company, and we had it for 23 years. Now, I try and talk to you about failures. One of my partners embezzled all the money, and at the end of 23 years, I went bankrupt. And I remembered something that my father told me, and I don't know why. He somehow knew I would probably go into business, even though I wasn't trained for it. He said, you're never really at the top till you've seen the bottom. And 2 weeks later, I started Kay Unger, New York. And my goal was then not to cover the asses of the masses, but to only make really beautiful clothes that were affordable and not so huge. And those are the choices you make, because as you probably know, often you can make more money in a small business than you can in a large, because you can watch it, you can control it, you don't need as many people. So large is always not necessarily always the best. Okay, so now our panel, and just a few more things that I want to say before I take up all the time, and then introduce Matt. And that is one of the key things, and Joel and I discussed it. He said, what's just one little thing you can tell everybody? And that is, my first boss told me, keep a little black book. Write down everyone you meet. Now, I guess I'm a little bit of an e-tard. That would be your contacts. I'm not so good at those. Most of mine have everywhere this person has lived and every email address they have. But anyway, the little black book, or what it is today on your phone, because who might be an assistant one day, which I experienced from my first job. There was an assistant who was pulling clothes for one of the magazines. Well, later, when I launched my own collection, I was on the cover of Harper's Bazaar with my clothing, because that person was then the editor-in-chief of Harper's. So those kinds of things, and be kind to people. When my company went bankrupt, I thought everybody would think that I was as horrible as my partner was. But I'd always been fair and honest, and I gave the business that was left and sold to every one of my competitors. And keeping your reputation may be the most important thing. And always treat people the way you want to. Now let's talk about what it's like to be an alumni and why I'm so involved in Parsons and how I got involved. And that was I sat next to Sheila Johnson, luckily, at a opening of a film where I had designed the clothing for the woman who wrote the story and produced it. And she said, "So, where'd you go to school?" I said, "Parsons. Why don't I know you? And why aren't you working for us?" I said, "Nobody asked." So a couple of years later, Parsons asked, would I participate? And I said, well, I want to talk to that Sheila Johnson again, because she gave $7 million to this school to build a fabulous building and exactly where we're standing. I want to know why she wanted to do that. She didn't even go here. So Sheila came to visit me. I had no idea that she flew up on her private plane and came for a half an hour to my really schleppy office. And there we bonded and found out why she believed in the creativity and the fact that now Parsons is associated also with the new school and that you can get a full education, because I didn't have that. I know how to drape, I know how to cut, I don't sew so well anymore, but I knew all that. But I didn't get the liberal arts education. I didn't have the opportunity to take the course so many of the courses that they're now teaching. And since I've been on the board of Parsons, I have met so many fellow alumni and also have been able to participate in what the school means, I think. I think that I've definitely influenced this art show because I've wanted to do it for so long, which started 2 years ago. And I'm so glad to see so many of you here because relationships are everything. And I'm going to build a relationship with all of you today. And if you think I'm not calling, I am. Because the last thing I'll say is that even though I'm doing a lot of philanthropy, and that is a very creative business, that I have 2 to 3 new businesses already in the works, but I need help. And one is designing for medical supply much better looking boots. Easier to wear, and also I've already patented the name, the other shoe, because unless you're even, the physical therapy I have to go through is not for the foot, it's for the rest of my body, and everyone I've met. So, and I know I saw Chuck Close here at one of the Parsons table lectures talking about what it's like to be in a wheelchair and be these things. And I believe I will be reaching out, and I hope you'll contact me because I need people to design it and everything. And I've got Pfizer behind it already, just from the Committee of 200 meeting. And ways for you to learn about what's next. And looking at Fabio, right? I'm talking about ways to even sell your work. I've been extremely successful, believe it or not, selling my artwork and my sketches from 1967 and 1968 from Parsons. They sell on 1 Kings Lane, one of the new sites. I was going to offer my services to Fab and some of these other places. So there's so much, and I have so many ideas, and they do too. But let me move along and introduce Matt. So I will read this so I don't make a mistake. Matthew Robb is PhD, New School for Social Research in 2005. Oh, you're a baby. He's our moderator. Professor Matthew Robb is director of the BBA program in Design and Management at Parsons, the New School for Design, and executive editor of the Journal of Design Strategy. He holds a PhD from the New School for Social Research. His teaching and research focus on psychological, socio-political, and environmental implications of design and the built environment. Well, we need you in politics, I think. So now I'll let Matt speak and ask questions of our fabulous panel here. And afterwards, I'm more than happy to speak to you. I have cards, and I did print out for you all some really good phrases I learned about what an entrepreneur is. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Kay, for that lovely introduction, and welcome to everyone, the alumni, current students, fellow travelers and friends, and also to our distinguished panelists. I'm delighted to be here. I am a faculty member at Parsons, and as Kay said, I am the current director of one of the degree programs here, an undergraduate degree specifically in business, a BBA, Bachelor of Business Administration program in design and management. So a very unusual interdisciplinary program that integrates curriculum in design and design-led research, business, basic business, the math, as well as customer-facing skills like in marketing, and as well as higher-level strategic business activities like brand management. And thirdly, a significant liberal arts curriculum as well. So those three major curricular areas that characterize the program. It's not a brand new thing. The relevance of design to business is a hot topic for those of us in the design world. I'm sure you're aware of sort of buzzwords like design thinking. This program is coming up on 30 years old, so we've been around. We're happy to have the rest of the world catching up to a recognition of the relevance of design methods to strategic contexts, including business. Our panel today deals with entrepreneurship, both in the literal sense of standing up a small business, starting it, particularly with a design focus. But entrepreneurship in a somewhat broader sense is a commitment all across Parsons. In fact, I'm delighted to be able to say that our panelists here are from different degree programs, none of which is the official business degree program at Parsons, the design and management program. In other words, thinking entrepreneurially, thinking strategically, thinking in a designerly way, as far as I'm concerned, those are synonymous expressions. That is sort of a set of values that permeate all of the programs and all of the culture of this school. Kay is a perfect exemplar of what we want to be as an institution, namely an institution that graduates doers, problem solvers, people that go out and try something out. And even if it doesn't work out, you correct your course and move on. Bankruptcy and setbacks is a major part of anybody who wants to get into the business world. We heard last fall from Tommy Hilfiger and his devastating bankruptcy, which didn't slow him down one iota, with rather impressive results. So that's all part of the environment that we are hopefully establishing here, and then we're delighted to celebrate those of our graduates that are operating in this way. A lot of our graduates will enter the industry working for somebody else, and that's also completely fine, but we want them to function as entrepreneurs, even inside, intrapreneurs, if I can use that particular catchphrase or buzzword, being sort of constructively disruptive agents within the firms that they come to be employed by. Enough introduction. Before we turn to actually hear from the people who are our main focus today, I want to make a slight program note. I'm not sure if you were aware or not, we did have a fourth panelist scheduled today, and she is not going to be able to join us. That's Roanne Adams, a recent graduate about 5 years ago from the communication design program that has started a very successful graphic and brand management shop. She's got the world's best excuse. She's having a baby. Right about now, probably. It was an unexpected acceleration of the time that's happening. So we're sorry to lose her input, but wish her all the best. I'm sure we will try to welcome her back at a future event. Some of you may have seen these short bios, some not. I'm just going to read the very brief bios of our three panelists and then invite them in turn to sort of expand on that and sort of explain how they got here. Furthest from me is Mr. Fabio Silva. Fabio is a 2004 graduate of our associate's degree program in fashion design, but he walked into that program already holding a law degree and already a practicing lawyer. So this was a career change motivation there, and we'll ask him to expand on that a little bit. He is currently the general counsel at the design-oriented website fab.com, fabulous site that I'm sure many of you know. kind of a mix of Etsy and design within reach. It's got a lot of great stuff that we can talk about and as the conversation unfolds. He's also adjunct faculty member at the Cardozo Law School, right in our neighborhood. Prior to joining Fab, he worked in, I think, in-house primarily or exclusively for some other very prominent fashion labels, including Tory Burch and Burberry, and did some other law work. His law degree is from Stanford, top school. So we're delighted to have you, Fabio. Thank you. In the middle, we have Jennifer Markas. Jennifer graduated with a master's degree, an MA in Decorative Arts in 2010, and has gone on to found Damsels in Design, which is I'm just going to read this so I don't sort of stylize it wrong, the premier cross-disciplinary networking organization for women in design-related fields. Physically located in New York City, I assume. We'll get more detail on that, but drawing in a wider sort of membership through its website. Going back to reading, each month Jennifer hosts private tours, networking mixers, lectures, and workshops in New York City to educate and empower her members. And this is focused primarily on women, as we said. We'll talk about that later. Jennifer is passionate about supporting young professionals in the design industry and serves as a connector, recruiter, coach, and consultant to many women in New York City. Her future plans include expanding Damsels in Design to Europe and beyond. And she has undergraduate degrees from Boston University and lives in New York now. Finally, we have closest to me, Mr. Bao-Khang Lu, so I can call you Bao, that's okay. A 2005 graduate of the MFA program, graduate program in design and technology. Bao now works, has started a small business working exclusively with commonly discarded materials to create fashion, art, and design-inspired home accessories. The name of the firm is Releve Design, for the French word, deriving from classical dance, but revitalized or relifted, reclaimed. I'll let you expand on that in a minute. The firm is primarily, at least in the first iteration, has been focused on repurposing six-pack plastic six-pack holder things. What is the name of that thing? The rings that hold a six-pack together, and cleaning them and sort of threading them onto these armatures to make beautiful pendant lamps that have a wonderful light diffusing quality. He's got a lot of great media attention for this young venture, including notice on Extreme Makeover Home Edition, the prominent website Apartment Therapy, and associated empire of books that is now associated with that site, the Huffington Post, Surface Asia, Inhabitat, and Curb, another similar sort of brokerage website for something like Craigslist. So here is a true blue dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneur, and we're going to get to hear a little bit more about how that's working out and the future plans. I've shared some sort of basic questions, very logical, common sense questions that I'll sort of follow through as we go. But for now, let's invite our three members to sort of expand on how they got here, what their thoughts are about being in small business or connected or adjacent to entrepreneurially oriented creative businesses. Maybe, why don't we start with you, Bao? Do you mind?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just go backwards. Can you just introduce a little bit more about yourself, say a little bit about your path, how you ended up where you are, and we can talk more about, the relevance of Parsons in the background, maybe in a second question, but just sort of generally bring us up to date.
Well, first of all, I'm very, very impressed that you were able to pronounce Releve. When people actually first see the name, they think it's Relieve, which makes kind of sense because you're trying to relieve the environmental pressures. But it's Releve. Releve is a dance term, a French term meaning to lift. So when you see a dancer kind of stand on their toes, it's a releve. I have a dance background, so my background spans a lot of different arts. I wanted to become the quintessential Renaissance man when I was in undergrad. So I did all the dancing, fine arts. I have a design degree from University of Texas as well. So, and then I came to Parsons to expand on my dancing and create interactive dance works. So actually creating interactive software and projection technologies to create performances. Well, that didn't really pan out in the end. I went back into designing websites. So I've been doing that, and I'm still doing that actually. I still have that 9-to-5 job where I'm doing the web design for a software company here in New York, in Silicon Alley. But I really missed working with my hands. So, because I grew up working with my hands, repurposing things. I grew up in a really poor family. We came from Vietnam. We had nothing on our backs. Being born into that type of situation was a boon in that I was able to really see the potential in everyday materials, and I really appreciate.
Can you just talk into that?
Oh, sorry.
That'll help us record this event.
And really appreciate materials and the importance of all the hard work that went into designing and to shipping and to making all those any designed object. So. Between growing up in that environment and my design education, I really appreciate materials and everyday materials. So that is how I came up with working on Releve design, really reconnecting with that, my personal mission to give a focus to materials and all that work that went into it, all that energy. So as Matt said, Releve design works with everyday discards to create home decor, and it's really influenced by fashion. Everything I'm looking at, fashion and design and art. I'm a really great fan of the Museum of Art and Design, so that's really what I'm trying to push for. Since I launched last year, officially I launched last year in August, but I really started maybe in 2010. I've gotten a lot of press because I think what I'm doing is I'm trying to be on trend, but also stay really genuine to my message. So I think that in the future, I won't be pivoting too much, but trying to really stay genuine to what I'm trying to do.
Say that again. Not pivoting too much, but what?
But not pivoting too much from my original intent, which is working with materials and really giving credence to these materials.
Okay.
So that's really at the base of what Releve design is.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Why don't we just hear from our two other panelists, and then we can dig into some more of the details. Jennifer, can you say something about your journey?
Oh my gosh, it's been a journey. Yes, I actually grew up in Los Angeles, and I grew up in a family that my mother was raised by a single mom, and she said, you gotta either be a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant. And I said, oh my gosh, well, I can't stand blood, and I'm really not good at arguing, but I can do some numbers. And so I went to school, and I got a finance degree. And I didn't like it that much, but I ended up at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, and I was a financial analyst there for a couple of years. And in my time there, I befriended some of the curators and the board of trustees and the board members and whatnot. And you could find me in the gallery spaces and in the inventory, and I would just be, gawking over, oh my gosh, there's a piece of, George Nelson ball clock, and I was so excited about this furniture. And one of the curators there said, Jennifer, you are not even doing your job. Like, you're just in my office all the time looking through books and anyhow, so she said, you really got to get on the ball. She's like, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't know, maybe collect, mid-century modern furniture. Like everyone, where's fab.com? But let's see, so she really kind of took me under her wing and became a mentor and helped me kind of decide what the next step was to take in terms of my education. And I've always wanted to live in New York. I like the beach and whatnot, but I just love the hustle bustle here. I love the passion that you find in people here and the smarts and just the creativity, like in Bao's endeavor. And so I came here and I was let's see, I was a student at the Cooper Hewitt program, uptown, 92nd Street, and I was just ecstatic. My first day, I said, oh my gosh, I'm on like Central Park, and like going there for lunch and just like really getting a hold of the city. And working with the curators there and learning about all different types of design. So really getting a handle on fashion history, architectural history, print, graphic design history. And so I kind of have this whole well-rounded background. And to me, that's something that was super important and that really resonated with me throughout my education. That I kind of have this business thing down pat, but I also have this passion for design. And so melding the two together can really open up some new opportunities. Well, I graduated in 2010, and I really missed, it was like all girls. We had a couple guys, but it was all girls in the program. I really missed my little gaggle, and I sent an email out, and I said, why don't we all get together for a happy hour, a little mixer, and it was 7 girls in the beginning, and we were kind of all working, in design. A couple of us went on to fashion. A couple of us were, working in architecture. I actually, like Bao, I still have a day job, which, the goal is to always get out of, but it keeps me grounded. I am a business director at an architecture firm, so I kind of still get to keep the design thing under my belt and the business. But anyhow, started with one happy hour, and that was last year in August, so kind of the same time frame as Bao, and now we are up to almost 1,000 members in Damsels in Design. It really was a way for me personally, I feel so selfish, but to connect with all these amazing women who, coming out of college, not knowing where to go, this economy sucks, so really finding a way to really support one another and help each other grow through this kind of whole, this whole design industry. In New York, it's such a small world, and so I got connected with some of the recruiters, and they said, well, gosh, we have these open positions, and I started connecting women with jobs, and it's really a support base, and really about pushing that well-roundedness. So I put on tours, I put on private events in order to educate them further. So if they're a fashion designer, educate them about architecture, because it's all interrelated. Everyone either knows someone or has a client that you can pass on, and it's really just full circle. So that's a little too much.
No, that's great, Jennifer. Why don't we just take one further question with you? Any of our current students will know that the representation, the heavy representation of female students is a pattern. It's a nationwide pattern in education, generally higher level education, higher education. But in our programs around Parsons, it's even more, you could say, imbalanced than in many cases. Mm-hmm. So this is an issue. The prospects for women specifically in these design professions and the related fields is something of immediate concern. I mean, as faculty members, as administrators, we are very focused on the less than spectacular economy, and we're concerned about their futures. We want them to get jobs and so forth. The focus on women specifically, was your motivation there that these are people that you happen to know? It sort of started with your group of friends, or does it stem from a perception or an anecdotally driven sense or anything like that from your context that things are harder for women specifically? In terms of things like glass ceilings or pay inequities, or is there a social or political problem that you are hoping to sort of remediate a little bit? Or is that just an over-politicized interpretation?
No, I definitely think that it's a great point. It feeds into so much of what my mission is for Damsels in Design. The mission is really to empower women professionally and educationally, and giving them opportunities to grow, not only within their, in their careers, but with their own passions. I think what I see is that, we have all these amazing designers that come out of these schools, but where are the jobs, one, and the owners and CEOs and the board members are mostly men. So women don't really get that opportunity because they have to make life choices, the babies or career, and I'm making kind of a generalization here, but I feel that there are not that many opportunities for women to go out and open their own companies, or to give them the tools, like the design management program. I think it's a wonderful program because you're really arming them with this design sense and the ability to go out and start a company in the field and in the industry, but also giving them the tools to do so. So for me, already having that background in business and in accounting and kind of understanding the structure of how to set up a company, that was already there. That's great. But I just launched a business plan workshop this past week, so I've been real busy. But it's great. We had full capacity, full signups, and just on Thursday, that's when we had our first class. I have girls in there, I want to start my own art advisory business, but I don't know where to begin. What are the legal implications? What, do I need to have an accountant at this point? How do I start my own website? What is the technology? And so, they know their craft. They know the industry. They know what sells, but basically how to get it all together is the issue. How it all comes together and how to really start your own business. So I'm arming them with not only this kind of well-rounded education that I believe in, but also this ability to go out and start their own businesses.
Okay, I appreciate that, and that there are obvious ways that what you're doing can complement what a school can do. Your comment also raises questions about if there might be things that a school like Parsons should be doing differently to arm and prepare its students for the real world. We can come to that. I don't think I'm supposed to get too far in that direction, but I'll frame it differently, like how did Parsons help you? You also mentioned law, so let me take advantage of that segue. Fabio, can you give us a sense of your path? It has some lateral movement in it, very interesting trajectory there. Can you sort of bring us up to date?
Yeah, so when I graduated law school, I was doing the very typical things that a lot of recent law school graduates do. Is you want to step foot in a big firm. You want to get your training there. And I thought maybe there's a possibility I'll stick around and become partner. But about 3-4 years into it, I realized this is not a happy place to be. It's not a very creative environment. The hours are awful. And a lot of people that do it, it's only because they've gotten themselves so hooked on a certain salary that they just can't conceive leaving and making a third or a fourth of what they're making. I didn't have a family. I didn't, no children. So I just thought, well, why am I still here? And even though I don't consider myself an entrepreneur, I really think that we can be entrepreneurial in terms of charting our own career, our own path. And that's when I decided I need to take a year off from this, and I applied to Parsons. I was very open in terms of what I wanted to do, whether it was product design or anything that just kind of pulled me out of practicing law for a year. Because to jump out of the frying pan into the fire, to leave a law firm in D.C., move to New York and join a law firm in New York, it would be even worse. So I thought I just need this year off. So I attended Parsons, and it was the best year ever. It all of a sudden, I was no longer thinking of myself as an attorney. I was thinking of myself as an individual, and what makes me happy. And I knew at some point I had to start earning a salary. So I thought, I keep going back to legal issues in design. The entire time that I was at Parsons, whether I was sewing or
Fabio, please use your mic. Okay, sorry about that.
Sorry, whether I was sewing or draping or whatever it was, I'd always start thinking about the legal issues. And in fact, even when I had to do a presentation on a textiles course, it came down to how to protect textiles in my mind. So I decided I wanted to go to a fashion company, to in-house at a fashion company. And I was initially thinking Kate Spade because I had a good connection there. But that didn't work out, but she connected me with Burberry. And the first 4 years, all I did at Burberry was do anti-counterfeiting. Really protecting the brand, going after counterfeiters throughout North America. And then for the second 4 years, I was more like their general counsel in North America, handling all legal matters, real estate, employment, corporate. And when I left Burberry, I decided I loved being in the fashion industry. So I went to Tory Burch, and I did something very similar there, but that was as a consultant. So then when I left Tory Burch, I still thought, do I want to remain in fashion? And now I was thinking again more, entrepreneurial in terms of, does it have to be fashion? I want to be in an environment where I'm working with creative people. And I feel like I'm an attorney who likes to work with creative people and problem solve and help them meet their objectives. And I think that's when fab.com came along, and it was just like the perfect situation. And I've been there only a few weeks now, but it's a company that is growing quickly. It's got almost 500 employees now. It's global, and I'm the one attorney having to handle everything. So it's almost like as if I got what I wished for, and maybe that's not a good thing.
Careful
but,
about that.
I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
Okay, thank you. That's a very compelling and succinct story. The way you've said, I've been trying to be entrepreneurial about my career. I think that's a perfect way to characterize sort of what we would like to be our role sort of in society, in that way that you could have been, I think I read somewhere online that you ended up at a Federal Reserve, so you could be mired in spreadsheets and less obviously creative stuff. Not that there's not an important role for those kinds of institutions, but you really took it upon yourself to act entrepreneurially or in a designerly and strategic way. Just for my own clarification, at Fab, are you functioning as a sort of general counsel, so you're defending the firm, or are you involved in, for example, protecting the intellectual property of some of the designers or people that are selling their products through the site?
It's essentially all of the above. As a general counsel, anything that's legal comes my direction.
They come after you, right.
And really, from the intellectual property side, it's not only protecting the intellectual property of the company. They've developed their own trademark, their own trade dress. They certainly have their own, proprietary software because it's a web-based company. But also, as any company does that's selling online, every now and then you receive claims of infringement from third parties who say that whatever you're selling on your website infringes some third parties' rights. And those all go to me, so I have to kind of evaluate, how credible is this claim? Because the last thing the company has no interest in selling anything that's infringing. And they look to me to decide, should we take this sale down? And it's interesting that most companies that are heavy on design, one of the first things they want to hire is an IP attorney, because they have all these general legal issues, and they can do those with outside counsel. But the thing that's day-to-day, that you need somebody who's 24/7, 365, is intellectual property. And that's where I feel I probably spend at least 30 to 40% of my time.
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. We're aware that that's a very sort of unresolved and sort of hot area in law right now, especially for people in the design fields. Maybe we'll come back to that in a little bit. And I'm going to pace our conversation so we have plenty of time for questions from the audience too. Why don't we, if we can, talk a little bit about the educational opportunity that you got through Parsons. Are there aspects of your time in these programs that you thought were helpful, either socially, as Jennifer was suggesting, or in terms of the curriculum? And it's also fine to sort of say, if there was this and this I just didn't get through here, but I've been able to find that piece of the puzzle some other way. Can you reflect a little bit on what Parsons has meant on that, the journey that you're on? Not to be too dramatic about it.
For me, a design education in itself is extremely rigorous, and that was even more so coming here and studying at Parsons. It was extremely demanding. So what it developed for me was a great endurance for hard work. I am not a stranger to working hard, staying up and doing lots and lots of all-nighters. So I think coming out of Parsons in general, you're uniquely qualified to go into entrepreneurship because you are a hard worker. It's also, it gave me a sense that I could make anything I want. So you just have to put your mind to it, get the right resources, get the right mentorship, surround yourself with the right people, and you can make anything you want. So those are the two things that that really I got from my time at Parsons. Of course, the connections were great because the people who graduated with me, the people who graduated before, and who graduate after, go on to do really good things. I mean, Parsons is it's a world-class education system. So you have a built-in support system there, all these connections and stamina that you're going to get out of this. It's really helped me a lot.
Okay, thank you.
And on top of everything that Bao said, I want to just emphasize, for me, it was actually this idea of connection, and not only with current students and future students and past students, but also with the faculty and with the department heads. I've had amazing kind of amazing mentorships almost, through these wonderful heads of Parsons, and not only Parsons, but other schools within New School, Milano and whatnot. I still attend a lot of the lectures that go on, and just really keeping abreast about what is happening in our community in terms of the New School community and Parsons. And everyone has been so receptive. I basically half my endeavor is event-based, and so I spread the word, kind of knocking on doors, and my old director of my program, oh yeah, Jen, no problem, and got the girls on board, like some of them want to come and see what's happening, and it's great because it really forms this special bond, and I'm really grateful for that because without it, I would not have Damsels.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. Let me just ask a follow-on question. I mean, in some sense, what you are doing is something that presumably the educational institutions are not doing. There's some kind of networking, connection making, some kind of generalized support, emotional and otherwise, as well as professional support that's part of what your goal is, I assume. Do you see that as, remediating a deficit in the educational sort of infrastructure around design, or is that not really, are some of those things not really things you can expect a school to provide?
No, I kind of disagree, actually. I think Parsons has an amazing alumni network, and I think that they have great networking events, as well as they have a wonderful career development program. Actually, the first person that I got connected to after graduating was Erin Berkery-Rover. She's actually since moved on just a couple months ago, but she kept me in the loop. And no, I don't think there's a deficit at all. I think what I'm actually trying to create is something for women especially to hold on to. And not that men aren't allowed. I can't actually discriminate like that. But it's something that it's across all schools that I've reached out to, and it's not just schools. I have executive members who are, who are a bit older and more experienced and more leveraged in their careers, and it's about kind of mentoring this next generation of designers to become entrepreneurial, to become the future business owners, and I really don't want to just. I don't want to, what is the word? I'm missing the word.
It's not really a problem with the schools
No,
failing to do
not at all.
something.
No, that's not where I come from. Actually, I think the schools are fostering this idea of collaboration and oneness and coming together and really supporting one another. And what Damsels, where I come from, it's a non-competitive environment where university is competitive. I mean, across all boards. And so what I kind of do with Damsels is that when you're out of your university system, when you're going through a career change, it's more of an environment to help one another and support one another in that sense.
Okay, thank you for that.
Well, I think it's just to add on to that, but I think it's the onus is less on the school rather than the design thinking. The thinking behind a designer or a creative person is that we don't think like business people. So you might offer these career services, these networking events, but I think it's really up to the designer or the entrepreneur to think in more business terms. My boyfriend is actually an alumni relations director for Kellogg, and so I get to attend lots of business networking events, and they they interact in a completely different manner, and I'm not sure whether it's something that's ingrained in business types or if that's something learned, but I think that as that design schools and creative schools in general, they attract a different type of person. So we just have to work a little harder and think a little differently to get to that level.
Well,
and I'm
also-
still working on that too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny because like designers and artists they're meant to, they're kind of generalized as being very introverted, and not being comfortable talking about their artwork and their designs. It's very secretive. They're trying to make money. They're trying to infiltrate a market, and
you can't do that.
And that, I mean, the one thing, there's a question on here. I know we're going to get to it, but I have to kind of, I have to jump ahead here. What is the one thing? What's the one piece of advice that I would give to anyone starting their own business? Is tell everyone about everything. I mean that's the thing, because you want to get as much feedback as possible and much support as possible. Without that, how do you know who your target market is? How do you know who your customer base is? How do you know if your idea is going to work?
That's true.
So that's.
Thank you, Fabio. I don't want to cut you off. I was hoping to move to this question, sort of what. You have a captive audience here, a lot, in addition to alumni that are in the field, students that are hoping to get into the field. Fabio, I know you're not the same in the same category, but we do actually, out of my program, have one or two students enter law school every year, and they are moving in just the direction you indicate. They know that IP and the control of trademarks and brand dilution are major issues in the design fields, and there's a lot there. We can start with you. Do you think that's a reasonable career path? And I noticed that you've worked for other firms as opposed to, hanging out your own shingle, for example. Is that a strategic decision you've made? Do you have, advice for any students that might be considering a law career?
Considering to blend the two, like I am?
Yeah, yes.
The advice that I would give them is that, certainly like I did, go to a firm first, if you can tolerate it. I've met attorneys that go directly from law school to going in-house, and they end up becoming attorneys who are just specialized in one thing. Because in-house environments are terrible for providing attorneys with proper training and a very general training. The resources are very low. You don't have somebody there who can assist you with all the administrative work. So you end up focusing on just real estate or intellectual property or whatever it is. You go to a firm for a few years, and the resume value is amazing, especially if you can get into a good firm.
Right.
And I was stuck in litigation for quite a while, but I wanted to do the intellectual property work, and ultimately my goal was to become a general counsel. So anytime I got the opportunity to do anything that was outside of my comfort zone, I'd go and do it, because then guess what? That's another thing I can put on my resume that I've done. Some attorneys love to specialize, that they want to turn that one wheel all day, all the time. I'm the kind of person that I want to run from different things and handle, do things differently. And we were talking earlier about, what did Parsons, what did Parsons help us do?
Right.
I don't think there's anything that I do today in my job that I learned at Parsons.
Is not.
Nothing.
Right.
I still sew at home.
Right, you're doing sewing.
Every now and then I'll make an apron. I don't. But Parsons gave me the credibility to. I can talk the talk. I can market myself as an attorney who understands the creative mind. That I understand the way creative people think. I am an attorney that creative people can tolerate.
Right.
Because most attorneys are just blah, 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 and they talk very technical. They don't understand how creative people work. And Parsons, it basically tells them in one word, I know who you are, I know how you think, trust me.
I appreciate that very much. It's striking to me that all three of you are sort of emphasizing connections. It's about not being just a specialist in one thing. It's about being able to add different skills, projects, line items to your resume, to your CV. It's about making connections in a Malcolm Gladwell sort of way. Don't tell everybody everything. that you're doing and just keep the communication going. As Bao said, it's about thinking like a business person, which among other things, I mean, he's got several things going on. Got the day job, got his firm, and he's getting a lot of good press, but there's a lot of sort of balls in the air, and that strikes me as like a theme kind of emerging. It's about not being, something about the entrepreneurial sensibility is being comfortable with straddling two different domains, disciplines, language types, left and right brain, skill sets, skill centers, types of expertise, and being comfortable sort of occupying what can feel like an ambiguous middle ground. Bao, do you want to have the last word? If some of these students, and I'm thinking specifically of students, are, because this is the advice giving question, are thinking, I've always wanted to have my own firm, whatever it may be. I want to go into business for myself. I don't want to work for somebody else. What, in your view, is the indispensable thing? It could be temperamentally, it could be in terms of skill sets, you could be concrete or abstract. If it's easier, you can talk about yourself. Do you see yourself as an artist that went into business, or do you see yourself as an entrepreneur who happens to be in design, or maybe that's two different questions. I'm sorry if I.
Those are two different questions. But I do see myself as a designer who's trying to be more of a business person. It definitely is a different skill set, and it's true that you have to juggle so many different hats. What I would encourage for students who want to try to start on this path is that you need to work on your communication skills, because you have to communicate with potential business partners, you have to communicate with your mentors, you have to communicate with your audience, with your market. If you can't communicate an effective value proposition, what are you offering, you're not going to get any response. You also have to be able to delegate. So really running a business, starting a business, it takes more than one person. If you're a sole proprietorship, you still need to get advice from other people. You still need to work with vendors. It's about delegating what needs to happen on a day-to-day basis. Work on your communication, work on delegation. And of course, basic cash flow, knowing where the money is coming in and where it's going out. So I think if you get that straightened out, you have a good foundation.
Thank you very much. We have time, about a half an hour, and we'd like to open up the floor to questions. We have a microphone that we'd like you to use. We know that's always a little embarrassing, but that helps us get a video and a transcript of our event today. So if you don't mind stepping to the front, we have Angela Swayze in a slightly less directorial role here. She is our Director of Career Services Office. But please don't hesitate. I know we've asked questions that are sort of in some ways aimed at students, but we are more than happy to hear from alumni comparing stories, war stories, successes, challenges. Please. Thank you. Always appreciate the brave icebreaker.
Hi, thank you guys. It's been really interesting. My question, I guess, could be for any of you. I came to school here. I went to Parsons for interior design for grad school, and it happened right before the economy kind of tanked. So while I was in school, I was really excited, all these prospects I had with different people that I knew through connections here at school to get jobs, and then nothing ever panned out because of it just didn't pan out. So I started my own design business, and I worked overseas for a little while, and now I'm back. So I would have liked to have worked for a big firm and learned all these different things first before I started my own business. But since now I just have my own business, I'm wondering what your advice is if that wasn't the case, like if I didn't get the chance to do that.
Wow. I can speak only with respect to the legal field. I feel for
Into the mic if you don't mind.
I feel for all the attorneys that the law students out there that right now can't make it into a law firm. They're having to think very creatively about what they're going to do with their careers, and a lot of them are choosing not even to practice law. It's very hard to go from in-house to law firm. very easy to go from law firm to in-house. So once these folks decide to go basically to start up their own business or go directly in-house, they probably at that point have lost a chance to ever work at a firm. But that's just the way firms operate. And we all know that the way firms operate is extremely archaic and bound to change. I can't say that other industries are the same. And I'm hoping that they're not the same. I'm hoping that there really is more of a revolving door in other industries. At firms, it's, once you leave, rarely do people come back. And if you don't make it in there right out of law school, chances are you'll never step foot in there. So it's really unfortunate.
So I just have a couple questions for you, actually. So you have your own interior design business. What are your thoughts then on this? Oh, well, if I could have, would have, should have. I mean, is there something in terms of monetary value there, or connections, or because where I'm coming from is that I know many women who have worked for some of the top architects and interior designers, and now they're starting their own businesses, and they kind of have a one-up. They kind of have established business with clients, but they still are expanding creatively their endeavors. Because it's not, with all the technology out, you can do so many more things, and you can reach so many more potential customers. So I have one gal who, with her interior design business, is also starting her own art advisory business within that. So melding different kind of design industries together, design disciplines together, and really expanding your own market. That is something that's another option, of really taking what you have already built and moving forward, instead of coming from, a big firm or some established company and then starting out the way they did it. And I think being an entrepreneur, it really gives you have to always think on your feet. You always have to be ahead of the next idea and trend and person. And I think that's what's so exciting about it, and really what the potential is out there. And don't ever second guess yourself.
Don't. I have to agree with the last point. Don't second guess yourself. It's don't be ashamed of any of your decisions or your gut reaction. Go with what you're passionate about, because at the end of the day, the buck stops with you. You are only you're the only person that you're responsible for. So don't be ashamed of not knowing what you don't know, because everybody, like in business, everybody is just trying to
Figure it out.
Yeah, figure it out themselves. Everybody's still trying to figure it out. Earlier on when I was starting this out, I had no idea what a supply chain was, or how to deal with vendors or anything. It's like, what am I supposed to do? What are all these forms I have to fill out? Asked one of my advisors at SCORE. I go to SCORE a lot, and he said, you know what? I've been in this industry for 50 years, and really nobody knows what they're doing. There's no industry standard. Just do what you want. Just bluff it. Do it until you make it. Really. Really.
I have one other thing I might want to add, if I can.
Please.
For those of you, and there's both men and women in the audience, I will tell you, for women, there are so many. There really are a lot of opportunities in a lot of organizations. And if I was in your place, I'd be going to Jennifer, and I still may, because I've never written a business plan and will need to soon. But this is what Fab, Etsy also has given, and even Pinterest. You can display what you believe without being damaged or judged. Maybe nobody will respond, but they probably will. You have that way to crowdsource everybody in the world really easily before you even make another step. And I think that's just so incredible. And, trying things or showing them to Fab or showing them to other websites is a great way to begin. And then there's an organization, it's just for women, called Golden Seeds. Okay, Golden Seeds they look to financially do angel supporting, up to perhaps $1 million or more. It's run by 200 different women, and they invest in women who are young. I'm too old for it, but you're young enough. And the things that they are doing, because I myself am meeting with a lot of the people who do some of their websites and things like that. They're doing amazing things. So for women, if you have an idea and you have a business and you want help, if nothing else, they'll mentor you. And absolutely use this wonderful panel here to reach out to them.
Thank you, Kay. Other questions from the audience? Please come on. Don't hesitate. Please come on down. We want to hear from you.
Thank you. Class of 2009, graduated in communication design. It's nice to hear all this whole thing about having passion for what you want to do and, your integrity. But in this time, you can't forget that money talks. So how do you go about starting your own business without zero funding? I'm not a girl, so it's difficult.
We both started our ventures after the economy crashed, and I think as designers we are taught to think within constraints. We excel with constraints. That helps us focus. So the economy is just another constraint. It really rules out other types of businesses you can build, but then it also rules a lot of businesses and opportunities that you can address. So if I was going to start Releve, which works with upcycling and repurposing materials during like an uptime, it probably wouldn't be on trend. I saw this opportunity where people were really trying to be frugal, really looking at value of what they have already, and I would not have been able to start that outside. So really not having funds, working within this bad economy, that is just another opportunity. In business, you have to take a look at the negatives and see how you can spin it into a positive.
Can I add something?
And bootstrap. It sounds like you have to bootstrap.
But this is the thing. I graduated in communication design, and after 2-3 years being an in-house creative director, I can't do it anymore. So I love clothing. I want to start accessories and product design. So and it's easier probably because you find all of this. You grab all of this used materials and you sort of regain them and give them a different meaning. But how do you go about funding a company that probably wants to have someone else manufacture when you don't have the fundings for it? And once again, I'm not a girl.
No, I'm sure Kay can probably speak to this, but what I've learned, like through the women that have come through Damsels and Design, trying to create their own accessory lines or their own fashion companies, they go directly to the fabric companies. They go directly to the metal fabricators or whatnot, and they ask, listen, I will give you equity. I will do anything. Can you give me enough so I can start to do samples that you can go pitch to the Henry Bendells and those or whomever you're going to pitch to? And also crowdsourcing. Kickstarter is amazing. Damsels, I'm still bootstrapping. My overhead, thank goodness, is very low. But it's about getting the word out there. It's about sharing your passion for your product or your service. So my passion are educating these women and getting them jobs. I go to recruiters, I knock on doors after my job is over, and I say, please, let's host a recruitment night. What can they do to make their portfolios better? I talk to these women. Why aren't you going to your schools? Why aren't you going to respective alumni programs and figuring out who's on, their committees? What have you gone to them? See, people want it easy. I know people who've applied with 500 resumes out there right now. No joke, 500. And it's scary. It's terrifying. But at the same time, you've got to do the legwork and you've got to really believe. It's like having this pure optimism that it's going to get you places, because otherwise, who wants a negative, nanny, under their belt?
Thank you.
Hi. I'm Corey. I graduated in '95 from the product design department. And in my career, I mostly have been designing products and environments. And that's transitioned into becoming a manager and working in management specifically for design. And Matt, you touched on this kind of in your introduction, that design thinking, people who are in the design and management world are transitioning into the entrepreneurship business world. So you're making these connections with people who are outside of the design world. Now, in my career, I've seen things kind of shifting from the industrial age to the tech age. And so reinventing myself and my career is sort of a priority right now, because I'm sure anyone who's graduated, 10 years or more can attest that things are changing out there. So, you, Kay Unger, you may also have some insight is, everyone in this room can understand why a designer can help someone who doesn't know what we know, the process and strategy. But what's the real way to connect with people in the business world who don't know what designers do, so that they can understand the value? Because if you go on monster.com, there's not a design manager position that you can go to Pfizer and be, I'll be a design manager for pharmaceutical company. Something, that's so outside of design. But it's so apparent that they need us,
One suggestion I might make is look at the list, which I'm sure you can see online, of who the Parsons board members are, as well as trustees of the new school. Because those might be people you could reach out to, because so many of them have either run large companies, maybe now they don't anymore. They have utilized Parsons students over the years, and they also have a lot of connections where they might be able to help you, because you are right. I mean, even to board of directors and boards now, they're looking for creative people. 3M. You have to really look at these companies that are giving their employees time to be creative. But maybe you step into one of those and say, look, how about I don't even care if you pay me for the one day, I'll come run your creative session and talk to your people about how to be creative. It's getting your foot in the door. But we do have this, we do have a large network of people who want to help the school. Many of us need people like you, don't even know you're there. The hardest thing in my career has been when I needed someone to do something, maybe you weren't even listed with the fact that you wanted a job or even to talk. So we need you in anything that I might be starting. I need people who are younger and more, more in tune with what's happening now. So I suggest one way might be to reach out to the people who are trying to help everybody who went to this school.
I just wanted to add to that too, because I've had several instances in my life where I've had to, I'm transitioning, whether it's I'm looking for a new position or let go from a position that was made redundant, and I've often been told, why aren't you going to that cocktail reception or to that conference? Mm-hmm. And when I look to see who's there, I'm like, these are my peers. I'm not going to get a job from my peer. I'm nice to them, of course, because you never know where they're going to end up. But I always reach out to the people at the top. When I wanted a position at Tory Burch, I called up the president of Tory Burch, and she picked up the phone, and she got about half an hour of of my time. When I made the move over to Fab.com, I connected with the co-founders on LinkedIn, and I sent them emails, and I said, I love your company. I would love to be there someday. And this was months before they were even looking for an attorney. I needed to plant those seeds, but I wanted to plant those seeds at the top. And whatever time I would get with these people, it was all about, this is the value that I could bring to you. If you can't hire me on a permanent basis, consider a consultancy. I'd even go there for a few weeks for free, project specific, whatever it is. And they admire that. They really admire when somebody reaches up to them and is even thinking very, flexibly about how can we make this work, even if it's just a temporary basis. And once you get your foot in the door, then you kind of cross your fingers and you hope that it turns out. It worked with Burberry, didn't work with Tory Burch, worked with Fab.com. So it's so I encourage you to, as Kay mentioned, reach out to folks at the top, and don't be afraid. And
you need to reach out of your comfort zone. I mean, even even that I'm working on a lot of design stuff, I really, my interaction with other designers has probably become like a quarter of my interactions with other people. I have to really deal with a larger range of people now, dealing with business people. So if you want to go network and find a job or a position or some opportunities, then you need to get outside of that circle, of the design circle.
Yeah. Since I've become a designer, I've also become a healthcare professional, and so part of what I'm looking to do is to bring design thinking into healthcare. So I agree with that statement. Is going outside of your circles for sure.
There's a crying need for that, as you know.
Yeah.
Parsons has got several projects with Memorial Sloan Kettering in just this area that have been ongoing, and that's a place where a designer can really
Absolutely. Yeah.
add value.
Yeah, and there's so much change and new ideas, being sprouted at the moment. So.
Living longer, you got to take care of us.
True. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's an
And
open market.
a whole shift in the paradigm of how we're thinking about care in general. So. All right. Well, thank you.
Meanwhile, there are parts of even the traditional old-fashioned industrial economy that are moving toward us. I alluded to that in my opening comments. Even very traditional, say, consumer product firms like Procter & Gamble, Johnson & Johnson, have done a lot to actually in-source design talent to their firms. They put designers on salary. I know because I lost some of my part-time faculty to Johnson & Johnson's facility in New Jersey. And there are people writing like Roger Martin, who runs an MBA program in Rotman School of Management, has written 4 or 5 books about the value of design and design thinking. And if you like, he's definitely drunk that Kool-Aid. There are directions moving toward the design professions from the so-called real world or the traditional world that may not move fast enough for you, but my overall perception of the trend line there is positive and optimistic. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amanda Curtis, and I recently started 2 ventures. So one is a women's wear line, and the second is actually a crowdsourcing website specifically for designers. So it's called 19th Amendment, and we're connecting designers with consumers and, more importantly, buyers. So right now, I'm looking into kind of gathering advisors and sussing out who's really into what I'm doing and who's going to be there for me and be an asset. What are some qualities in your advisors that you think would be really important for me to look for?
Great question.
That is amazing. It's like so exciting because it's like real, I actually am still building my board of advisors as well. I decided on having 7, and I have about 4 now. But the other 3, it's like a long-term standing relationship you have to build and cultivate. And that's exactly what it is. It's cultivating. And so for me, it's forward thinking, being able to see the value in technology and the value in education and being well-rounded. And so for Damsels, it's really easy because we represent every design discipline. So having someone, from graphic design world to the architecture world and really being able to place value in those different fields and understand the women who are coming from those fields. And so what I would say is really have someone with a business sense who either same entrepreneur, an entrepreneur themselves. To me, it doesn't really have to be about age necessarily because with technology changing, the whole time, you got the guys at General Assembly who they're amazing. They're all under the age of 30 and they've grown this multi-million-dollar company already. But again, their advisors were someone from GE and Amex. So it's kind of really taking your vision and who shares the same passion as you. Who really gets your mission. I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of easy and obvious, but really staying true to that, I think, is helpful because there are going to be people that want a piece of that pie, and just be careful. Just be true to yourself and your vision.
One other thing, and I actually learned this at the meeting I was just at with the Committee of 200. That is an organization you could reach out to, and sort of ask, say, I'm interested in advisors, and this is the kind of business I'm doing. But the other thing they kind of taught us was, when you are interviewing the people, make sure they ask you questions that make you go, oh my God, well, I didn't think about that. Do not ask all the questions. Ask them to ask you questions so that you can find out how forward-thinking they are, if they're out of the box. Because if they can't ask you good questions that make you think you don't want them.
I think also, I think if we've learned anything from the critiques that we go through, they're really rough. I think what you want to do when you're trying to find an advisor is try to find people that don't always agree with you. You don't want to have an advisory board that's like, yes, 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 you're brilliant, you're brilliant. You want to find somebody who will tell you what you're doing wrong so that you can address that. So because that way you have the leeway to make your own decisions in a well-informed, well-rounded way.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll take a couple more and then we can retire. Let me just say, in this interstitial moment, we would like to invite you to the gallery that's just adjacent to this room as we finish. Unfortunately, we need to limit that event for the alumni only, not current students, for a couple of reasons, including just the sheer space. But we hope the rest of you will join us for the exhibit that's hung there of alumni work in just a few minutes. But please, let's take a couple more questions first.
I'm Suzanne Harrison. I'm a new student here. I have a long way to go before I graduate. It is demanding, but it's a good thing. And it makes you think. But my question is, I'm a fashion designer. So I'm asking, how do I protect my designs coming into this market?
When you say designs, are you talking about just your illustrations, or you're talking about...
My illustrations, my fashion sketches, my ideas.
Okay. Well, you can't protect ideas, unfortunately. I think the only way you can protect ideas really if it's a patent, but I don't think we're talking about patents here at all. Your sketches, as soon as you actually draw them, are already copyrighted. In other words, you can go and secure copyright registrations for them, but under the law, once you've actually drawn, once it's actually put in a tangible medium, you've drawn it out, it's already protected under copyright laws. So that means that if somebody even copied them, you can still actually pursue them legally for copying them, so long as you have proof that yours existed before theirs. But you still have to kind of protect it in terms of who you show it to, because you're giving people the opportunity to copy. And even if someone copies, then you have to then figure out how much money you have to pursue them, because it's expensive to pursue people for infringement. When you've actually put something together, a design, a clothing design, an apparel design, it's unfortunately, you really can't protect that. There are elements you can protect. If you design a textile, you can protect it under copyright. If you design a particular embellishment, copyright. But the actual design of the garment, you can't. If you design a collection of garments that all have the same look and feel, and when people look at that, they associate it with you, because it's sort of like it's your brand. It's not necessarily a logo, but people now understand that, someone who actually puts piping that way, in that color, around the pockets or around a seam, that's you. You can protect that, because at that point it's your trade dress. And then of course, if you decide to put any sort of logo on your apparel, whether it's on the packaging or on the item itself, that's protectable through a trademark registration. So right now, if it's really just about the illustrations, you're fine. It's more about really who you allow to see them, and whether you trust them or not. And certainly don't let anybody make copies of them if you ever go on an interview, which I've heard sometimes they'll ask. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katie Tagg. I graduated in 2007 from the fashion department. First of all, thank you for having this. This is just invaluable information, and for you being panelists, it's just been really interesting to listen to your stories. I particularly like to hear about, following your passion, and that being something that can be a catalyst, behind you, that if you really care about what you're doing, then, it's like they say, if you love what you do, you won't work a day in your life. And I currently have a 9-to-5, in design and what I graduated for. And And while I do enjoy a lot of the sides of it, I find that my passion has changed. I've changed, so has my passion. But of course, the industry does not allow necessarily for you to jump ship, if it's not already on your resume. Even if it's in the same industry, it's on your same knowledge. You know exactly how to do it. There's like this blockade keeping you from changing. I'm trying to go after my passion now, and I'm finding that I don't really know how to pursue my philanthropic. I would like to start up more of a philanthropic and entrepreneurship opportunity, but I know that it's a very sensitive issue that I'll be going after, and I don't think that there's going to be a lot of people who are actually experiencing, this particular challenge, and the people who I would probably need the support of to get it off the ground. Like, I don't think that they're going to be very open to talking about it. Would you have any advice for how to kind of go about getting that partnering and that cooperation if it's a difficult and sensitive subject?
That's a tough question.
That's obviously because it sounds like you're not ready to share it. And I can understand that. And maybe, no. So you have to find someone, I think, that you might trust. I think everybody talked about trust, that you can sit down and talk to about it, because when you think negative thoughts, and all of these people have said this, and it is bizarre and kind of religious in its own way, I think we've all learned they just take over your body and your mind. And in creative people, it's so prevalent. So first, you've got to think positively about it, and positively that someone's going to believe in you if you believe in this that much. And that's probably the first thing. And reach out. You can talk to me.
There are also a number of social entrepreneurial ventures that the New School is involved with at various places around the world. Ventures that live, for example, in courses, so that the students are, advancing that project. There's been a very developed one in Guatemala, for example, about doing textile development in local indigenous communities, and they're getting some design input as well as business, marketing for export kind of input from different faculty members and students around the New School. So something like a career change degree, of which Parsons has several, New School has several others, and there's other good institutions around New York that might, something like that could be a quick, very practice-oriented 1 or 2 year sort of ramp up in a new field like business entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. That might be helpful for you for both the content and in terms of the networking opportunities.
The other thing, I'm sure Fabio might say this, and maybe he can help. Confidentiality agreements when you go to meet with people, I think, can be very useful.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking about that because I didn't know whether your hesitancy was because it's sort of, it's something you're uncomfortable talking about, or you're uncomfortable sharing because you don't want people to run off with your idea.
No, my husband is now a disabled veteran, and I find that a challenge for not only my own, but a lot of our friends and people that I've known throughout this whole process. It's not that I don't want to talk about it, it's just that I'm interested in bringing my apparel design and my expertise there, and to give confidence and to give dignity and to give that back to people who really deserve it. And there are so many veterans who are coming back now. They're coming back in droves, and it's going to be a big problem. And I find that it was really hard, a challenge, to get that confidence back and to get back into the workforce as a civilian, coming from a place where, your appearance was the least of your concerns. And I think that, I'm trying to get across that, but I know that I've already had difficulties in working with certain organizations that they don't really want to discuss possible limitations there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, sort of like the elephant in the room.
Yes.
But you got to deal with it, and it certainly seems like there's a need. I'm I've got to imagine that there's got to be some organization out there that would totally support you in whatever it is you're going to do.
Yeah, and instead of thinking about starting from scratch, thinking about collaborating like you already have, reaching out to those organizations, such as the American Red Cross or something like that they have the infrastructure to support another branch of.
And there was just something on
What you're
TV
trying to
last week, I don't know if I can think of it, where someone was trying to do what you did, and they told the story and how difficult it was. So maybe, I don't remember, but it'll probably come back.
There may be various government bodies that support new initiatives through grant writing, like the Veterans Administration, actually a piece of big government that works quite well in this country. You never know that from listening to TV, but there may be ways to interface with the government that might support some kind of ventures like that. Why don't we take one more? I'm sorry to sort of move it along so we can wrap up and have time to look at the artwork.
Thank you.
Please.
My name is Jay Jacobs, and I am an alumni in my own mind because I attended Parsons for 2 years. But I'm up here because my entire life I've been a serial entrepreneur, and I was so excited that you guys were talking about entrepreneurship. I was also excited when I found out that Kay is 67, which you do not look like you're 67. I mean, I need whatever you're taking. I mean,
I'll be happy to share that.
but the reason why I wanted to come up was, as much as a question, I wanted to make a statement, because being a serial entrepreneur, I know you were talking about certain things, what you can do. And a big part of it is really asking and continue to ask, like you guys are talking about. And I also wanted to say that there's a whole world of us that are not young, but I'm 55. I am better at social media marketing than I ever was because my daughter's 29 and she's taught me a lot of things. And what I'm excited about is that I will tell you guys will get older someday too, but your eyes and your brain don't get any older. It's weird coming back here because of the fact that the building is different, but you don't feel any different than you were when you were here. And next week, my wife and I will celebrate our 33rd wedding anniversary, and we met at foundation year. She graduated. She's the good student. But the big thing that I wanted to mention is the alumni part of it. I mean, and this is not a knock, but it's important to know. My wife and I really haven't done too many alumni things because we didn't think there were a lot. And we met Melissa, who she never really thought there were a lot. And it seems like there's an energy and excitement that's going on here that I'm going to do what I would tell a young entrepreneur to do. I'm going to ask. I'm going to tell you that I have a lot of connections. I have a lot of influence, a lot of energy. I want to be involved and help in any way that I can with that. And just to let you know that if I look a little familiar, I was on NBC's Biggest Loser, and I lost 181 pounds. Now, so the reason I say that is only because you need to be able to go out there and do exactly what you guys are doing. And I will tell all the young people, you've got to open your mouth and stand up and let people know, because otherwise life's going to go by and you're not going to know about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that wonderful comment. And I think if there's been a single theme from this conversation, it was just articulated very well. Getting out, communicating with people you don't know who have a different background than you, being willing to tolerate the discomfort, going out of your comfort zone, as Bao said, and crossing over to the disciplines, not expecting to know everything, but to seek that kind of other expertise that doesn't correspond to your own background. That is really a hallmark of someone who's functioning as an entrepreneur, whether it's to stand up their own business or to be a creatively disruptive force in an existing business. Folks, we really appreciate you coming. We are doing more of this with the alumni event. I think there's going to be more going forward than there has been in the past, so we appreciate that, and this is also an incomparable resource for our current and former students. Thank you once again. I hope we can take the conversation next door here.